Everyone. Thank you for joining us today evening. And I'm sure today evening is going to be special for all of us as Richa is going to present her thoughts on a very, a sacred topic, and we are all ears. So presenting to all of you, Richa. Richa, all yours.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. So yes, the topic is definitely sacred, not only from the perspective of the topic, but also from the perspective of what we study at Seekr, because this is one of the foundation of what we understand and learn and try and imbibe in our life, in our behavior, when we go through the journey at Seekr. So this was also the reason why this particular scripture kind of got picked up. So some time back, I had initiated a study group. So that's where it all happened. Thank you so much for this platform. And I hope I'm able to do justice to the entire thing. So what I thought was I'll give you a little idea about the scripture, how it goes, what it says, etc. And then we will look at all that of seeker philosophy that is interlinked everywhere, and each one of you will be uh, able to help me better. So especially the new ones, they will be remembering each of that much more, and of course our trainers. And then we can also look at some question and answers. So that's what I have, and of course I've got a small ppt to create because it's not in a model kind of format. But before that, let's begin with the prayer. Okay. So, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you so much and welcome. I have the sharing rights. Yeah, great. So we know that Shankaracharya is known to be the one who established, rather re-established Advaita Vedanta. He moved across the country. He established the mathas, the four mat. He had this amazing debate with Mandan Mishra, wherein he was actually talking of Advaita Vedanta and Mandan Mishra was talking of Mimamsa, and there was a lot of things that went around that. So Shankaracharya has given commentaries on a lot of Upanishads, especially 11 main Upanishads, 10 or 11, which are also considered to be the main ones. But he also has written few very important texts which are kind of considered as the fundamental Advaitic text to understand the Advait concept. For example, there's definitely this book called Drg Drsya Viveka. Then there is something called as Vivek Chudamani. There is quite a few of them, and I forget the names on the spot. Srini sir.
Yeah, there are many. So Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha.
Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha.
Yeah.
So quite a few of them, and they all primarily talk of the very fundamental concept that Vedanta approach. Now, when we look at Drg Drsya Vivek, it is primarily talking of what we study at Seekr or what we have understood at Seekr as duality, the subject and the object duality, because we delve a lot into observer attention and ego attention, and we have observer sadhana and all of that. And you will find quite a lot of that really relating to it. Yes, Ajit ji has written a lot of bhashya or the commentaries on various Upanishads. That goes without saying. But before that, let's understand how there are various models which have been created to understand. Typically, when these texts come, they talk of the supreme reality. That's what their purpose is. That's what they want to achieve or reach or realize. So we have this Sthul, Sukshma and Karan Sharir triology, which is called as Sharir Traya Viveka. So that is, Sukshma is subtle, Sthul is gross, and Karan is causal. So subtle body, gross body, and causal body. Then Panchakosh is something that most of us are aware of, which talks of 5 sheath layer. Again, the idea is that one by one through every sheath, you reach to the core, which is Anandamay Kosh, which is the nearest to the supreme reality. Then there is Avastha Traya Vivek. Avastha is the 3 possible status, which is Jagrit, Swapna, Sushupti. Jagrit being the waking state, Swapna being the dreaming state, and Sushupti being the deep sleep state. And then there is Karya Karan Vivek, which talks of what the cause is and what the effect is. So cause and effect relationship. And then we have this Drg Drsya Vivek. If you look at the understanding of Drig, actually means eyes in Sanskrit, and Drishya is all that what is seen. So what Drg Drsya translates into is the one who is seeing and whatever is being seen. So there is the seer and there is the seen. Now if you look at eyes are the only sense organ wherein we have a choice, what do I want to see and what I don't want to see. For everything else, the sound has to fall on the ears. Eyes go to the drishya. Similarly, for the touch, we have to that touch we have to come to, and taste also, the stuff comes to us like that. But eyes, we all know that they form one of the major form of the sense organ that is very, very active. And perhaps that's the reason why seer and seen has been picked up. And also when we talk of Upanishadic language, the idea of seeing or witnessing or sakshi bhav has always been the basis or the foundation of it. So with that, let's enter into it. The third word, Vivek. Vivek actually comes from which dhatu, and which means to separate things. So what do we separate with Drig and Drishya? So Shankaracharya says that we are separating what is truth, eternal, and what is false and Maya. So that's what is being separated. In Atmabodh, he says, Nitya Anitya Bhedah Vivekah. So, okay, my video has got stopped. It says, yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the very meaning of Vivek is how we are differentiating what is right and what is not right. So the entire concept of observer sadhana is based on this. We say that when we are into ego attention, our observer, we are more with the emotions, we are more with the ego, the energy that's falling is not really observing things. It's the cognition is low, but the moment we move to the observer attention, then everything drastically changes. So this is technology. Whatever can go wrong goes wrong. Murphy's law. Okay. So I've got a small presentation that I prepared to share about it, and allow me to open that. Please let me know if the presentation is visible.
Yes, Richa.
Thank you. So this document can actually be divided into 4 segments. So there are 46 verses in total, but then there is also a kind of conflict as to who is the creator of the rest of the verses, because those who know Sanskrit say that the language 32nd onwards is more rude. It's very direct. It's not the Shankaracharya's language. So most of the commentaries consider verse 1 to 31 as that of Drg Drsya Viveka. So it can be very clearly divided into these four segments. Verse 1 to 5 talks of the fundamentals of discrimination. So how should we really approach the entire observation? What are we observing? Who is observing? That becomes an important question. The next seven verses, which is 6 to 12, they talk of how this entire Prakriti manifested. Because from there, they pick up how the Maya operates, which is dealt in verse 13 to 21. And then 22 to 31 talks of certain meditation techniques. And when we go there, a lot of you will be able to correlate with the AMS remedies, especially those who have received meditation as a part of the remedy. We have got one of those meditation techniques. So taking it ahead, verse 1 is the main verse. I was listening to Sarvapriyananda ji. I listened to him quite a lot, and he said that from this entire book, you do not take anything, but just take along with you the first verse. You are done with it. This is the most important verse, and this established the entire premise of the study. So it says that forms are seen or perceived by eyes. So in the first, there are 4 levels of seer and seen that the Rishi talks about. In the first level, he says, what is seen are the forms, all that we see outside us that we call as objects. All of that is seen or perceived. And who is the perceiver? Who is the seer? Our eyes are the seer. Most of us, I should not be saying us, we have gone much deeper with Ceekr, but if you look at most of the people, this is the level that they stop. What the eye see is considered as the truth. What the eye see is the right thing. We do not go behind that. And this also reminds me of the Kena Upanishad, wherein the entire question is based on who is the one who sees through the eyes. That's what the disciple asks. So the first level of seeing is all that which is form is seen, and the seer is the eye. When we ask, are the eyes really the seer? Then we get the question, no, eyes are not the seer. Eyes are seen or perceived by what we call as mind. So mind actually is the seer, and eyes become the instrument. So mind can also see what eyes can see, and hence mind also become part of the object or all that we are seeing. Then the Rishi says there is yet another level of question. Is mind really seeing? So when we talk of what opinions we have, what prejudices we have, which all of which is actually coming as conditioning when we are absorbing anything via mind, Rishi says there is another level to it, which is the witness or the sakshi bhav or the drashta bhav that the Upanishads, the scriptures talk of. So forms are seen by the eyes are seen by the mind, and mind is perceived by the witness. The witness or the sakshi bhav or the observer attention, as we talk in our Ceekr language, is the one which is untainted, not colored, which is free from any prejudices, which is free from any biases, judgments, opinions. And hence, what it sees is in purity. So if I talk in the language of J. Krishnamurti, he says there are 2 steps. One, to see the false as false, to recognize Maya as Maya. And the second step is to recognize the truth in the false. So when in the third part, wherein we talk, when Shankaracharya talks of the power of Maya, that's where he helps us understand how to see the truth and false, which is also used in the meditation techniques. So the first thing to understand is whenever we are perceiving anything, we need to figure out who is the one who is seeing, who is the one who is perceiving. If it is the witness, then it is fine, because Shankaracharya says that witness is the one who is not seen by any. So that's where everything stops. That's where everything becomes one. That's where we are in the purest of form. And the rest of the verse in Drg Drsya Viveka actually goes ahead and elaborates the first part, which is form are seen by eyes. The second is eyes are seen by mind, and like that. So that's what we look at as the first part of the first segment of the book. The next segment of the book, which talks of manifestation of Prakriti, a lot of you will be able to relate with when we did our session on Ankur took us through primordial nature. So Shankaracharya says that there is something called as consciousness. Now this consciousness is very pure. How does it create the entire Prakriti? How does this Prakriti manifest? So then it says that there is reflection of consciousness, which happens in two ways. There is creation of mind and creation of ego. So these two are called as reflected consciousness, the very first level of it. Both of these are very subtle. So if you look at the quality of ego and mind, we do not think they are unreal. I know, when we say this, we are so sure about I know what my mind thinks. We are so sure about what the mind thinks. Shankaracharya says that they are so subtle that we don't even understand that that's reflected consciousness. That's not pure consciousness. Then he goes ahead to say that then next level of this reflection of consciousness happens in the body. But how much anything can reflect consciousness depends upon its own nature of being gross or subtle. The subtle can directly reflect the consciousness, but body being gross cannot reflect consciousness directly, and that's why what it reflects is the ego. So it is the reflection of reflected consciousness. That's what Shankaracharya says. So there are three levels being created. There is consciousness, there is ego, and then there is body. And the verse goes ahead to give us this example of a hot iron ball. So consider this body as the iron ball, which when is cold, we see it as something like black or grayish, blackish kind of thing. But you put that iron ball in fire. In just some time, it picks up the quality of fire. It becomes red. So it is so very close to the quality of fire. It is hot, it is red, which are not actually the quality of iron ball, but the quality of fire. And the attachment happens. So the attachment between the body and the ego is just like that. And that is why the way we cannot separate the fire from the iron ball, similarly, we find it very difficult to separate the body from the ego. So the body says, I am, I know, I experience this. This is the taste. I have seen it. I have heard it, and all of that. This is the model that Drg Drsya Viveka has created. And as I have understood, all the models are only for us to gain understanding and not to take them in literal sense, because mind understands model much better and in a much easier way. So all of the scriptures have given us some or the other model for us to absorb this knowledge better. Are we together till now? Great.
Maybe we can pause and ask for any questions, Richa, if that's okay.
Sure. Perfect.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, maybe you can go ahead.
Yeah, Richa Nishant here.
Yeah.
Can you explain that, what differentiates mind and ego? That part is not clear to me.
Okay. So actually, if you look at the very definition of ego and mind, the scriptures talk of antahakaran. That's the word. In English, we use the word mind, which is very limited in its quality. But antahakaran is supposed to have 4 parts to it, which is manas, buddhi, chitta, and ahankar. Ego is the ahankar part, and manas part is the mind here. But because he wanted perhaps to make it little simpler, so he's saying that it's mind and ego. But when we get into deeper study, we bifurcate it as the mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. If you look at all 4 of them, they come together to do any task, but in themselves they have got a separate task. So manas is that part of antahakaran that picks up all the stimuli which comes via the senses. So it is all the information that's being gathered. Buddhi is the vivek. Vivek buddhi is the word that we mostly use. So buddhi has the power of discernment. What is buddhi supposed to do? Buddhi gets its input from manas, and it also gets its input from chitta. Chitta also is the great silo of memory, which we call as subconscious mind. So these 2 places, it picks up the memory and the information, and from there the job of buddhi is actually to segregate what is truth and what is untruth, what is sat and what is asat. That's the job of buddhi. But buddhi undergoes transition. Some game happens with it, and the game is done by ahankar. Ahankar per se is not ego. Ahankar actually means the very idea of I amness. I am. That's what ahankar means. So when you say I am blank, whatever you put in that blank actually is ahankar. Now we may not be able to understand how is that so, because if you look at, let's say I am a teacher, how does that become an ahankar? But the moment you go deeper and you look at an experience wherein somebody comes and appreciate you, oh wow, what a good teacher you are, then what happens? I forget everything and I become happy with it. And if somebody says that what a lousy teacher you are, what a pathetic teacher you are, you have not done justice, you have ruined the life of students, I am taken aback. So per se, I am positive, I'm optimistic, I am this, that, all that. We are not able to recognize that as ahankar, which actually can camouflage the entire understanding. But when you put that all of that into experience, you understand, you experience that how it is getting more into the ego attention mode. So vivek buddhi is supposed to actually find out what is truth and what is untruth using the input from the manas and chitta, but ahankar comes and camouflages it, and hence vivek buddhi is not able to do its work, rather it does what ahankar wants. This is one model again which is given in the Shastras, which helps us to understand how antahakaran functions. Here, to simplify it, Shankaracharya has just talked about mind and ego. Does that answer the question?
Yes, Richa. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So can we go ahead now? Okay. Now, so we saw that here there are 3 levels. Now, how these 3 levels operate? So Shankaracharya says that there is identification of this ego with all the 3 levels. There is identification of ego with the reflected consciousness, with the body and with the witness or the sakshi. When there is identification with the ego, the state of mind is, I know it, I am. When it identifies itself with the body, it says, I am the body. And when it identifies itself with the sakshi, which is the knower, then it says, I know it, I have seen it. And that's what it takes as the ultimate truth for itself. And then Shankaracharya goes ahead and says, if this is the state of mind, how can it cease to exist? What can I do that ego is no more with reflected consciousness and only reflected consciousness happens? So he says, ego ceases when one understands that ego is unreal. Till the time one takes ego as real, the real consciousness is not opened up for the person. The identification of ego with the body withers away as the karma withers away. So that is more a process. There is a karmic aspect to it. With the sakshi, it goes away the moment there is knowledge. The ignorance is taken away. The moment one attains the reality and one knows, oh my God, all of this is ego attention and not the observer attention. So the moment one recognizes how much of ego attention, how much of observer attention, then the identification of sakshi, of ego with sakshi, that ceases to exist. A very interesting example that is there in the entire book is the three levels are looked at with the example of ocean. Ocean is the consciousness. The waves are the reflected consciousness, which is at the level of mind and ego. And the foams that we see on the tip of the waves, they are like the body. So it says that the foams, they merge back into the wave. So the body merges back into the mind and ego, and waves merges back into the ocean. So the mind and ego, when this identification ceases to exist, that merges into the consciousness, and hence consciousness comes into existence. Now, moving ahead from here, this is very, very interesting. And if we can look at it in our everyday life, I have found it to be very, very interesting, wherein he talks about there are two Shakti or two powers that Maya has. If you look at the word Maya, Maya comes from Ma plus Yah. Ma in Sanskrit means no, and Yah means this. So this that does not exist is Maya. That's why we say Maya is unreal. Now, what are the powers that Maya has, which allows it to operate in such a wonderful way that we find this entire existence so very real? The Shankaracharya says that Maya has got two powers. The first is called Avaran Shakti, or Avaran is wheeling of things. So what it does is, it doesn't allow us to see what is as it is. It creates a layer, which is our layer of conditioning, the way we are conditioned to see something. For example, say there is a mobile handset. Recognizing it as a mobile handset, to what work it does and what it does better and perhaps with lesser quality, etc., is one aspect. But recognizing that handset as, oh, it's a Samsung phone, oh, it's an iPhone, oh, it's a dual screen phone, oh, it's a Vivo. Now, what we are more looking at is the branding of it, the way we want to relate with it, the positioning of it, and not what it really does. So there is this power of wheeling, which Maya is using all the time, because of which we are not able to see what is as it is. And then there is a second power, which is called Vikshepa Shakti, or the power of projection. So here what Maya does is, what is not, it projects. So mobile is a mobile. It is not about the brands, but it projects the branding. That becomes more important for us, and the utility factor goes away. So this Avarana and Vikshepa Shakti is working every place, at every place. And this is, if we are able to actually question what I am seeing, is that what is? Or is the power of wheeling or the power of projection functioning? Then there is a possibility that we start uncovering. For example, we have these techniques of 5 whys. So for anything, ask, why is this so? Why is this so? Why is this so? What are we doing? We're actually peeling off layer by layer. And in this peeling off, what's actually getting removed? The veiling and the projections are getting removed to come to see what the reality is. Now, then Shankaracharya says that every object has got these 5 characteristics: existence, cognizability, attractiveness, name, and form. The existence is it is, or the sat part of it. Cognizability is, it can be cognized by us, the chit part of it, and the attractiveness is what gives us anand. So these 3 are there in every object. So you can realize that when we do meditate, the AMS remedies, when we have been given some meditations, 10 minutes meditation. When one of the remedy that I had received, where Kaushal sir is saying that pick up any object that comes in your mind at the first go, do not choose, whatever just comes up, pick that up and stay with that. Concentrate on that, focus on that. Why any object has the quality to take us beyond object? Shankaracharya says, when we look at the object, we only look at the name and the form aspect of it. The first 3 aspects belongs to truth, and the last 2 aspects belongs to the Jagat or the world. We mostly are only able to see the name of the form, but the moment we are able to see beyond that, which is the Sat Chit Anand aspect of that, existence, consciousness, bliss, then we can actually see that in everything around. And Maya is using name and form as its instrument, wherein the wheeling and the projection powers are being utilized. And then the 4th part of it, which is the meditation techniques. And shall I pause here to just see if we are all together?
Richa, I have a question. Richa?
Yeah.
I have a question in the previous slide. Could you turn back, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this one, could you just give an example to explain these 5? See, name and form is very simple. Like, that's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But the other 3, yeah. First, just like, you can just take any object. And
so if anything, if you look at, we say it is, let's say a pen, right?
yeah.
So a pen is, we know that the pen is made up of 5 elements, which we call as Panch Dhatu, the air, water, ether, and all that.
Right.
But what is important for us is its isness, that is its existence.
Okay.
Even if it is not in this form, it exists in some other form. So when it is broken, or it gets totally melted into, dissolved into the earth, some Panchabhut still remains. Rather, all the Panchabhut gets goes into its respective space. So the Agni Tattva merges with the Agni Tattva, the air element merges with the air element, and so on and so forth. What remains is the isness. it was in this form, it is now in a different form, but that remains, and that remains always. Even when this was created, it was created from something which remained, although we did not see the pen there, but it remained in some form. So the isness continues, which is the existence. Cognizability is we are able to see it. Who is able to see it and in what way? That's where you go to the Sakshi part. So Sakshi is the Chit, the Chaitanya part of it. So that is.
The witness. The witness.
Yeah. And then there is a third aspect of it, which is the attractiveness or the ananda. When you see it and when you're able to use it, it gives you some kind of happiness that, oh my God, I can do my work using it. Or it is helping me in this way or that way. So that happiness remains. Now, how do I perceive that happiness will change my experience with it. If I can be in gratitude that, wow, I have got something that helps me to express me in some way, that bhava of gratitude remains with me. That is the ananda part of it. So even if the name is changed from pen to something else, the form is changed from this to something else, which is changeable, which belongs to the Jagat, the three that it will still remain, it still has a capability to give us ananda in some form, and it still can be cognized by the Sakshi that remains. So that's the three part of the supreme reality, and the rest to belonging to the world. Does that help?
Thanks a lot. That's really helpful. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And then the fourth part, which is the meditation technique. So Shankaracharya goes ahead to explain that there are two types of samadhi, savikalpa samadhi and nirvikalpa samadhi. Savikalp, as it says, vikalp means choice. So we have a choice here. Choice of what? Choice of where I'm focusing on. And when you look at it, if you correlate it with Patanjali Yoga Sutra, this is the dharana part of it. Dharana is the focusing on whatever. So I had been reading certain books on meditation, and they say you can actually pick up anything. Although typically we are said that think about or visualize a light or a candlelight or a diya or om, something like that. That's only because we connect with them better. But you can even pick up a stone and focus yourself onto that. So there is a choice. That's why it is called Savikalpa Samadhi. And then there is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is the ultimate state. So Savikalpa Samadhi leads to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, Savikalpa Samadhi has got two types of vikalp. There is an internal vikalp or internal choice, and there is an external choice. So, and both of them has got two types of choice. There is object and there is sound. Now, when we look at internal, the object that I visualize in my mind, or the sound that I think of continuously in my mind, and I close my eyes and sit and be with it and try to be with it. My mind wanders, I gently bring it back to the same object. Why? Because each object has got the characteristics of the Sat Chit Anand, the first three part which we just discussed. So although the object we know as per the name of form, yet because it has got those three characteristics, it has the capability of taking us into the ultimate samadhi. So internally like that. Now, coming to what we also talk of observer sadhana in Seekr, that's where external Savikalpa Samadhi comes into picture. So this is about whatever with I am. My eyes are open, all my senses are open to the external world. Yet, I am able to observe them well. And this observation helps me to understand that there is something beyond name and form. So I don't get swayed with the name and form. My emotions do not take over. My desire mind and feeling mind does not take over. Rather, I get fixated with the goal mind. So even in the external world, objects as any sound, you can pick up and you can be meditative throughout 24 hours. That's what it does, right? Again, just kind of re-emphasizing why object and sound, because they have the same essence of Sat Chit Anand, and when we are able to reflect onto them uninterruptedly, then it has the capability for us to get absorbed in the supreme reality. So this is how the entire chapter comes to an end, and the last verse, which is the verse 31, is the verse directly picked up from the Mundak Upanishad. And that's where Shankaracharya says that by beholding or realizing the supreme reality, who is high as well as low, the all knot of the heart are broken, all doubts are solved, and all karmas and its effect wears away. So that's where, when one reaches to the supreme reality. Now, when we are looking at our seeker journey, what we are basically trying to do is we are trying to eliminate all that which is not really needed in life. That's what happens when one starts to move towards higher blue and jade green and fluorescent green. There is only one goal, and the life is dedicated towards that. One is absorbed so very much in that one goal that one finds the real purpose of life. So I'll take a pause here. And I think by now we can actually relate to a lot that we study at Ceekr with this, all of ego attention and observer sadhana and satkarma and different types of minds and how we move ahead from pink band to the fluorescent green band. So I'll take a pause here, and any question, any sharing, it would be lovely to hear that.
It was lovely, Richa, at least for me to kind of go through what you shared. And I could see the connections between what we have read, and it's kind of making me more and more excited to go through it. So thank you for sharing. Anybody else would like to share any thoughts?
खूप भालो.
Hi, I wanted to ask a question related to consciousness. You know, there are different definitions given in different books and different places. My understanding about consciousness is basically soul, right? So just wanted more clarity on this subject.
Actually, the way we use the word soul is not really the consciousness. The general use I'm talking about, it is the causal body that we primarily refer to. Because when you look at the consciousness, there is only one consciousness. But when we talk of soul, we talk of many souls. And then there is a finiteness given to it. So how does the consciousness becomes finite? And how does consciousness becomes many, which is infinite? How do we count them? So then I came to the understanding that what basically we are referring to with the word soul is not the supreme soul, but the Karan Sharir or the causal body. So when you will go to the Shastras, they say that when somebody dies, the body dies, the body and mind, the body is the gross, the Sthula Sharir or the gross body, and the mind is the Sukshma Sharir or the subtle body. Both of them gets destroyed. But what moves on is the causal body, which is actually, we say it's a pind of desires. All of the desires coming together becomes the reason why we take birth once again. So it's the causal body which is moving. So the soul changing clothes, actually it is a causal body taking up new and new body and changing clothes that way in the language. Consciousness as a word also gets confused because we also use this word as different levels of consciousness. We say there is subconscious, there is unconscious, there is supra consciousness. So then there are levels of consciousness. So what do we really mean by consciousness? When you read Shankaracharya and you read the Ramakrishna Mission books, they use the word consciousness, Vivekananda, they use the word consciousness as a supreme reality. At a lot of places, the word is substituted by awareness, that we are the awareness, just for the sake of clarity. So a reader is always needed to look at the context of where you are reading and what you are reading. For example, if you will go to scriptures, there are places wherein they will use the word Atman. Then there are places there they will use the word Paramatman. Then there is a word they use at Jeev Atma. So what is this Jeev Atma, Atma, Paramatma? So it's actually just two things. Jeev Atma is the word used wherein they are talking of supreme reality as Atman, and wherein they want to talk of supreme reality as Paramatman, then Jivatma is referred to as Atma. So the context becomes very important. What you in what context are you reading? Please figure out the meaning accordingly. Otherwise, the words will get very confusing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The questions are brilliant. I'm grateful as these deep concepts become understandable. I'm sure folks are at different levels of understanding. Yes. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much, Shirley.
Yes, and somebody was saying something. I think Nishant, you were saying something. Go ahead.
I'm saying, it will take some time to absorb that the deep knowledge that you have shared. I definitely was able to connect it with what we learned in our mind mastery.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for reminding that and refreshing the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So all of mind mastery that we learn is just this, nothing else. You see a broader application of it in our everyday life. And unless we are able to bring scriptures to our everyday living, they are useless. And I always say this, that when the scriptures are said to be timeless, let me see what is its usage in this time. It must have its importance, its usage and application in this time as well. And that's where all the decoding of it happens. So I was so very super happy when Seekr brought it in this fashion, because now it's very contemporary, in the contemporary language, to be understood in this way.
Yeah, when you were explaining about the pen, I was reminded of Panchikarna. Panchikarna by Shankaracharya. He explains how the 5 gross elements get together to form everything what we see in the world.
Yes. That took me a lot of time to understand and absorb. But yes, it is wonderful to understand life, the way we live, that there is more to it. And I think that helps us to be on the goal mind even strongly, because then we understand that what we are kind of, attached with or binded with, Maya operating, it's really not the essential. It's not the essence. The essence is something else. And that's where we are able to make our journey move towards the goal mind. And that's where we also start moving on the higher band, on the CAS band, on the Yogimeter band. And that's where we start to experience really the taste of life.
Very nice. Thanks a lot, Richa. In such a short span of time, you've really been able to give a lot of perspective on very deep, a very extremely deep and extremely profound thought. So thanks a lot for that.
Thank you.
Great, Richa. Thank you. I think it was a great session for everyone. Great learning, and some good questions also came up. So I hope you'll take more and more such sessions for us to, for our understanding to deepen further, and take this subject even closer to what we already know in mind mastery, right? So I think that's the whole idea, that what's written in scriptures we are able to understand and correlate with what we study as contemporary knowledge, what Seekr has created. So thank you again from everybody. And any last thoughts or questions before we close today?
I want to thank everyone for being such patient listener, wanting to absorb such deep knowledge, because it has taken me years. So it's all right. It takes us little time, but you all being such patient listener, really being absorbed in all of this is beautiful. It's beautiful to see. So thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank-
Shalini has summed it up well.
Of course, especially to Saima and Rashmi for pulling me to do this.
Yeah. Now I'll keep pulling you, don't worry.
Thank you so much, Richa. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
everyone.
good evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.